Welcome back to the flight deck of Mangal Earth. Today, we are exploring the world of gender studies with our esteemed guest, Tamas David Barrett. He is the author of best-selling book on Amazon called The Gendered Species. Tamas is a renowned expert in the field of gender studies with extensive research on the intersection of biology, culture, and gender identities. And this is really exciting for me as a human geographer to understand more of his work, the complex interplay of factors in shaping human societies. In this episode, we will explore the key themes of gendered species, delving into the evolutionary origin of sex differences, the cultural factors, and so on. So let's welcome Tamas. Tamas, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. So I'm dialing in from Oxford. Um, just came back from a little book tour with this book that you mentioned so kindly, which is about why there are gender norms to start with, why they vary across cultures, and why they change, which is a very neatly defined scientific question, which is what this book is dealing with.
So, getting straight into our questions, Tamash, as a human geographer, I want to learn from you, how do you reconcile the biological basis for sex differences with the cultural variations in gender roles?
The way I think about it is that we are an extremely flexible species. So if you look at our two closest relatives, bonobos and chimpanzees, they are very different from each other. Chimpanzees are patriarchal and bonobos are matriarchal. In fact, the book defines patriarchy as chimpanzee-like, because our species can do both of these. So we can do all the way patriarchy, all the way matriarchy, but it seems that we have some kind of foundation, an anchor. And that anchor is gender, it's gender equality like. It's really more like gender harmony. But because we are flexible, depending on the ecological conditions around us, uh, we might end up one way or we might end up the other way. But the anchor is clearly there.
Tamas, such an important aspect you've highlighted. Based on the existing ecology, these gender roles will be defined. But your book also highlights the significant influence of culture on gender norms, right? Culture may be driven by ecology, we don't know, but please elaborate for our viewers on factors that have accelerated or hindered gender equality in our societies.
Traditional gender studies looks at cultural variations and observes that institutions and power structures have a very strong role in driving the variation and a bit of randomness. So what this book does is doesn't go against this, but it provides a foundation to this, almost a biological, ecological foundation. So in which we understand that some of the ecological factors drive the cultural norms. For instance, before farming emerged, most human cultures, forager cultures, hunter-gatherer cultures, were gender harmonious. As farming appeared, at least 11 different places on the planet, basically at the same time, as a consequence of, of climate stability, suddenly it all changed. And then all the cultural elements changed.
Tamas, but that is aeons ago. Today, gender-based violence is such a big issue. You know that. Based on your research, help us to address what are the potential future trajectories of gender roles and identities in the light of globalization, technological advancements, societal shifts. Guide us.
I think what happened, and this is what I'm describing in this book, what happened is that these forager societies ended up mostly patriarchal on the back of farming. But that logic of the patriarchy started to go away with the Industrial Revolution. And with falling fertility, it is all going away. So what we see today is a very slow process away from the patriarchal setup towards something new, which I think is most likely to be sort of gender equal, gender harmony in a global democracy or whatever is emerging. Yeah. We're not quite sure what is happening. So, but this process is so slow, takes several lifetimes because exactly those institutions and power structures that we feel constantly frustrated with it. But the process is there.
And that is what we want to get to also. The findings from your research are very interesting. Tell us, how can they be applied to develop effective policies and interventions to promote gender equality and social justice now that we have such intelligence?
Great question. So what's happening now is that because the logic has changed, we don't quite know that there is a logic. So we don't quite know that that logic has changed because we don't know if there's a logic. Yeah. So what we can do, I hope, and this is why I worked on this book, is that when we understand the logic and we understand that the logic of the patriarchy went away, it's not just a random process, then we can sit down and design new policies in which humans can be human without the social organizational framework that the patriarchal systems forced on us.
Definitely. Tamash, your multidisciplinary approach is commendable. You take into account human, cultural, ecological factors. I wanted to learn from you the challenges and rewards of integrating insights from various fields like anthropology, biology, and economics to understand the complex topics such as gender.
I'm not sure if it's, I would call those challenges. I think these are intellectual empowerments. So, because I happen to be in several different fields, when I try to say the problem and define the problem of one field in the language of the other field, that translation, just like translating between languages, allows a new insight and the underlying meaning. And hence suddenly, we have some deep insight. The book has a bunch of deep science, but when you read it, you never notice. Because once my editor said, Tamas, we need to explain what evolution is. I said, okay, well, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it because I don't want to do talk mathematics. And so there's a 1.5 page on a poetry salon of horny poets. And you read it, and you don't know that there are all these different elements of evolution are there, but by the time you know what evolution is, so and that's the power of multidisciplinary approach.
You for making time for us, Tamas, today and joining us today, sharing valuable insights and setting us off in a direction where we learn more about gender studies. Your work on gendered species is a canonical work which must be read and understood. It has provided us with deeper understanding of complex interplay between biology, culture, and gender identity, and that they keep on varying. Friends who are watching this, there is a spectrum of how the relationship within society grows and moves. As we have discussed, the future of gender roles and partnerships is critical. So, we encourage our listeners to explore the gendered species further and continue engaging with the important issues raised in this episode. Thank you for joining another session of Mangal Earth. Namaskar.